My name is Debbie Turner and I'm the CEO and Artistic Director of Cape Town City Ballet. I started dancing at the age of 3 and retired from the stage when I was 33, having studied and performed many dance forms with a very strong focus on Spanish dance and contemporary dance, but trained classically until I was about in my early 20s. It's always, as we know, the basis of everything, as one's mother and teachers always say to us. And I think the more that my life has progressed, I've swung back so much towards pure classical ballet and one's love for it. I think there is a time in your life that it can alienate you when it gets really tough. And yeah, I mean, I think that happens maybe for all of us, but I've never ever not been in love with classical ballet. But I love dance in general, in all its forms. Yes, so at the age of 21, parallel to my professional dance life or performance life, I started my own business, which was a school that was immediately vocational in nature because of, I didn't actually know what recreational dance was at the time, purely because I think of my own training and how that generation of dancers around the world were, you know, if you danced, you danced, and that was all that you did. So yes, a vocational school for young children that had a life of 35 years, in fact, 36 years. And some 10 years in, I started my own project-based neoclassical / contemporary dance company, which lived for 24 years. It was called the Cape Dance Company, and we did as many performances a year as we could. But it was tough going. But the great thing was it was a tight team, and we managed to produce some really, really good work and commission choreography many, many times during that 24 years. And then in 2017, it was a big shift in my life. My mother passed away towards the end of the year. In January of the following year, I landed up as a judge on the South African Dancing with the Stars program, which had one season only, but a wonderful season it was. And I learned a new skill. You know, live television is quite a scary thing, but it was tremendous fun. And then the job of Cape Town City Ballet was, the CEO for Cape Town City Ballet was circulated. And the call out happened, and I thought about it long and hard before I decided to apply. And I think I very much had the mindset of it would be a miracle if I got a job like this, because it had all been quite internal up until then. And the company is 90 years old, and I'm the 5th director. So there were lots of sort of long-term people and incredible people stepping into big shoes, or the shoes that were open were big shoes. But I think everyone has their own shoes. And before I applied for the job, I decided that if I got it, I would take it. I don't think I would have applied just on the, something that you can easily turn down. And ballet was in need of, and dance in South Africa was in need of some sort of reinvigoration and reimagining and new energy, because it had been really, really tough for all companies in South Africa from 1994, when all the state funding was lost and very, very little had come back. And on the 1st of October 2018, I started my job as CEO of Cape Town City Ballet. And it was most certainly hitting the ground running. It was quite a difficult situation to go into, a change for everybody. I think that's really hard for dancers. It's really hard for artistic staff, and especially somebody coming into the environment that they didn't particularly know. And so it was challenging. It was very challenging, I think, for everybody. But my first season of performances, I was really happy that we managed to restore Balanchine's Serenade to the repertory that had been there in the late 80s and early 90s. It's very expensive repertory to maintain, as all directors know, but nevertheless, it's a treasure to have in the company. So when the curtain went up on the very first night in June of 2019, and the whole audience erupted with applause, it was a real feel-good moment for me, not only because it was a restoration of something that was there before, but also because it was quite a sight to behold. I mean, the opening of Serenade is always a breathtaking moment, I think, for everybody, no matter where in the world you see it. And then the trajectory kind of rolled out from there. I had to start reinvigorating the new classics, or new productions of the classics, but using scenery, set, and costumes that in some cases are 40 years old. And Denise Schultz, who is well known in the ballet world, staged our first full length for us under my directorship. And then shortly after that, Maina Gilgood was setting her Swan Lake on us in the first quarter of 2020, when the world shut down and COVID hit. And gosh, I mean, I don't think any director really wants to go back there in terms of how that was, or how one got through, or how one managed. But it's definitely not something that I think any director could do again. I mean, I know that I certainly couldn't do it again. And South Africa's lockdown protocols were really, really stringent, where we couldn't even go for a walk, and dancers were, renting a room in a house where they were trying to do class on Zoom. It was a nightmare, I think, for everybody around the world. And to this day, I'm allergic to Zoom. I won't have a Zoom meeting unless I absolutely have to. I think it's the most impersonal. I mean, it was very helpful. It helps people around the world. But for me, artistically, and for everybody, I think it's the most impersonal, speaking to a screen, no person's face. That was hell. And it was certainly hell for the dancers. And it took us about 9 weeks to get back into the space, the Cape Town City Ballet space. And my instinct told me that if Cape Town City Ballet didn't get back into the studio, it was going to close. That was my absolute deep gut instinct. And it took us a whole week for the company to have 2 classes each in the week, with the cleaning protocols and all of those things. And everybody, I think, approached it very differently. But I think that was the toughest time, in masks, and trying to just take one day at a time. And in fact, the government regulation that allowed us to go back to work was if you were going to make work for television or film, then you could go back to work. So Cape Town City Ballet was all of a sudden making dance films. So 2021, I think we did about 52 performances in 2021, which looking back was probably a miracle too. And after 8 performances, I made the decision, it's no masks, that's it. Otherwise we can't do this. It was just too tough on everybody. And I think the low point and the high point of that year was we did a full-length version of Carmen, Veronica Paper's Carmen, to 50 people per house for 8 performances in an opera house that seats 1,500 people. And what was so gratifying was the energy and the dynamism that the company put into those performances for those 50 people every single time. And then the amount of noise that 50 people can make and the appreciation that they can show was really heartening. By October of 2021 was the first time that South Africans could travel without being in quarantine. And the opera houses in Europe were generally open. If I recall, I was in Zurich and I was in London, and I think there was no masks and there was no anything. But we were still very, very much under regulations. And we returned to a semblance of normality only on the 26th of June of 2022. So some 9 months after the rest of the world, we then went to a fully open house. But now things are coming back. I think economically the world is incredibly challenged. Everybody's funding is being chopped. But you have to be progressive in the way that you think and how you try to sell tickets and encourage dance audiences back. I mean, that was one of the amazing things that we found, was the appetite for live theatre most certainly is still very, very much there. But in some cases, the disposable income is not. But, you know, we just take the bull by the horns every week and do the best we can with what we can achieve. We are currently in the middle of a production of Veronica Paper's Cinderella, and Veronica Paper is a former artistic director of the company. She was number 3 out of the 5, and so it's wonderful to have Veronica still working. She's a very feisty 78 years of age, and is absolutely brilliant. All the choreography is up here, you know, in her head. Makes very few, doesn't work from notes. She works, you know, from what's inside of her. And she's an incredible inspiration, and I'm very grateful to have her as a mentor and you know, a person I can bounce things off. But so we opened her Cinderella last Saturday. That was the 4th of February. And it continues. It picks up tomorrow night. We have 6 casts, and one of the casts that I'm very, very thrilled to have, Vadim Montegirov from the Royal Ballet, back with us for the 4th time in my directorship. And he's partnered by Tatiana Melnik from Hungarian National Ballet, is his Cinderella. And, you know, the motivation for Cape Town City Ballet to bring principals in is we're geographically quite isolated, or we're a long distance from the European hubs of dance. And it's so important for dancers to have a point of reference as to, you know, what the state of the art of classical ballet is in the world. And I think Vadim certainly is one of those measures. There are, you know, we have so many beautiful dancers in the world at the moment. He comes with something extra special, and he is so generous of spirit when he visits us, and so calm and generous with the dancers and helps them and shares information. And I think that's really, really important for there to be a sharing amongst companies, and in so many ways, I think it's very important for those sorts of things to happen. And after Cinderella finishes, we then start working on Maynard Gielgud's Don Quixote, which premieres in August, but, you know, it requires many, many weeks of work. There are many roles to fill, and, you know, the company responds very, very well to the demands that Maynard places on her productions. which I absolutely love. I love working with her. She is, a master of her craft, and she brings a huge amount to Cape Town City Ballet. So we're thrilled about that. In June, we have a premiere of a new work by Kenneth Tyndall, which would be the second time he's creating on Cape Town City Ballet. He previously created a work called Polarity, and I'm very thrilled to say that he is coming back in shortly to start his new creation, which premieres in June, and that goes up alongside Third Act by Adair, which is being staged for us by Stéphane Favarin. So that's quite a nice contrast, a double bill. Manufacture of 24 white tutus is got to happen. That's another challenge in South Africa. So many skills have been eroded and lost over the years with the change of how classical ballet is able to operate in South Africa. But nevertheless, 24 white tutus we shall have. And then, yes, after Don Q in August, we haven't made final decisions actually about December yet, which we need to make. We're hoping to do a little bit of touring within the country with Veronica Paper's Romeo and Juliet, and possibly our Nutcracker that we did last year. But one of the challenges for Cape Town City Ballet is there aren't a lot of theatres in the country that our productions can fit in. The set is big. It's they're opera house size sets, and they don't fit into theatres that have a smaller proscenium. So it's always about finding space. Our opera house is about 300% oversubscribed, with touring companies wanting to come to Cape Town. It's a beautiful destination. There's most definitely a huge appetite for theatre in Cape Town, all kinds of theatre, and live performance. And so December remains a mystery at this point in time. And then the exciting thing about 2024 is that Maina Gielgud will be back to do her Swan Lake in 2024 that was meant to have gone up in 2020. But I suppose that the special thing is that it's the 90th anniversary of Cape Town City Ballet next year in 2024. So maybe it is serendipitous that it has been put out until 2024, because Swan Lake would be the quintessential celebration, I think, of a 90-year anniversary for our company. So Cape Town City Ballet at the moment is 38 dancers. We usually sit between sort of 34 and 38. But the company definitely needs to expand in size to meet the needs of your traditional productions, or the traditional size of casts for productions. And we have to be able to afford to do that, which is what we're working on building. And the company is 80% South African dancers, 80% South African staff and management, and the greater picture of Cape Town City Ballet with our orchestra, and it's predominantly South African. We have dancers from other countries. I don't like to call them foreign dancers. They're just dancers from other countries. Everybody is, we have a really, really open door at Cape Town City Ballet. It's what is exciting is that our demographics of the ballet company with South African dancers is representative of South Africa and its population. I would like it to be more so. I would like parents of young children to actively endorse and choose classical ballet as a viable career option for their children, which, in some parts of the world, and what COVID has taught us, is how disposable classical ballet and the performing arts became for quite a lengthy period of time. So that's something that we're working very hard to build the credibility of classical ballet and professional dance as a vocation. And It's very exciting to be here at the Grand Audition because it gives a very clear insight as to what the status quo is and the standard is of young emerging dancers in the world right now. You know, the ages were sort of 17 to 24, which is, you know, quite normal for an audition, and very inspiring for the dancers and inspiring for directors. This is the way, actually, in going forward, I think will be very, very helpful for Cape Town City Ballet to identify new artists to take into the company because of the diversity of cultures that are represented at the Grand Audition, and yeah, just to compare standards. And you know, this is it's impossible for a young dancer to fly to Cape Town to come for one audition. You know, in Europe, you know, they can catch a train to multiple different countries and companies to audition in audition season, and we, you know, we just not on the railroad. So it's great for me to come here. The company, in terms of people, I mean, South African people are very warm and friendly, and I think the country has got monumental problems, but then I suppose so do many other countries in the world. But at the same time, there is an energy in South Africa that is intangible, and it's almost untouchable and completely intangible, and something that people feel when they come to South Africa. Cape Town, of course, I've lived there my entire life. It's an exquisitely beautiful place. You know, when you're having a tough day in the studio, you just sort of look a little bit up through the windows and the beautiful mountains, you know, sort of jump into your studio. The sky is mainly blue all the time, and it can get devilishly hot in South Africa, and but we certainly, you know, cold in South Africa is 12 degrees. We're all freezing, you know. That's really cold for us. And so, you know, I love the company that I serve and that I represent, and there's a wonderful buy-in from the dancers. Dancers that are drawn to Cape Town City Ballet, I think, are definitely going to be young people that want to have a unique experience. I think Cape Town City Ballet is quite a unique place, and we're climbing the stairs. You know, we're climbing the stairs, and it's damn hard work every single day. But the dancers love being on the stage. Performance is their thing. It's definitely not a grind, and I can demand a lot from them, and they give it generously. Public, or our public that we have, and our patrons are very excited about where the company is going in terms of its repertory, and the fact that they're getting to see what they love, you know, the pure classical ballet. They're getting to see international guest artists, and then they're also getting to see brand new creations that have been made on our dancers, where the dancers become the paint. And I think that's really critical for the development of any artist, is that they have to be the paint on a regular basis. And that's what stirs things inside of them as artists, and maybe for them to become painters in their lifetime. But if you're not used as paint, I don't think you can very easily be a painter. And I think that's also one of my strong, you know, a strong focus for me, is commissioning new work and then also staging the masterworks. Alvin Ailey is famous for saying, he said, I don't want cookie cutter dancers. And I think I definitely subscribe to that same sentiment, is that I love unique individuality. There is a baseline of technique that I think every director is entitled to expect. I'm not a fan of acrobatics. I'm just not. But there is, I think it is the dancers that have an aura around them for whatever reason. And when the light from inside shines out, that is immediately draws my attention. Musicality in a dancer, where it's an innate thing. It's not a learned musicality, it is an innate sense. I am definitely drawn to the dancer that clearly shows that they have to dance, not they want to dance, because lots of people want to dance. But there are less people that have to dance for their own well-being and the need to move and to move to music and to be able to be the paint and then to be the prince or the princess or the fairy or whatever it may be. I'm also very drawn to dancers who love the art in themselves rather than themselves in the art, which is that famous quote.